Hi there, everybody, and welcome to the Growth Execution Podcast. We are here every week with another great entrepreneur, business leader, giving their views on how to launch, build, and grow your business. Delighted to be joined by leadership coach Shawna Schuh this week. Shawna, how you doing?
I am outstanding. It's exciting times, actually, that we're living in.
Isn't it just? Yeah. And listen, along those lines, what has it been like for you over the last sort of year and a half, couple of years?
Well, it's so interesting because as a leadership coach, and I work with people who are really seeking to be the best that they can be. And right now we need those skills more than anything. So how we think, especially with so much negativity coming through and also fear. And I think that a lot of leaders grapple with that. You know, do I have the skills? And how do I work with teams that are in fear? So it's just been, my business has been doing great, booming actually, because so many people need an outside eye actually. And I think that's one of those skills that most leaders that are smart do. I'm sure you do, I do. I've been coached for years and years, and I'm always reading something or learning something new, because no matter what happens in the world, no matter what happens with a pandemic or markets or gas prices, the investment you made in yourself will always pay dividends. It will always grow, and you will always be valuable.
I could not agree more. And from the leaders that you work with and that you talk to, what's the kind of sense of their own sort of personal take on this sort of situation? Are they generally sort of out there thinking that this is going to be an opportunity? Are there those for whom it is much more of a challenge, or is there that mix?
Well, if someone is actually investing in coaching, their mindset is things are going to get better. We're going to utilize this opportunity. So I'm only dealing really with people who are at that top echelon, right? I mean, who invest in themselves, people who believe in their future and the future that's going on. One of the things that they're doing, though, I think, is dealing with the fear that their teams have. One of the things that we work on quite a bit is how to not perpetrate, or like, let's give a tip, right, for your listeners right now. So leaders will do, lots of people are working remotely. They're working remotely. And so we're losing this wonderful connection of looking at this person in the eye and saying, what kind of energy are they putting out? So what they're doing a lot is they're checking in with their team. And I'm going to suggest to your listeners, to you, not to do any check-ins, and not to call them check-ins, and not to say I'm going to check in, not to call and say I'm just checking in, because inherently a check-in means a checkup. You know, it means what are you working? What are you working on? Yeah. And most of the time when a leader calls to check in, I'm doing air quotes, they're really checking up on whether or not you're working. And more importantly, you're interrupting. Uh-huh. In the real world, if you were watching someone and you walked by and you saw that they were deep involved with a project, you would never check in with them. You would just let them do what they're doing really well. Mm-hmm. And so when we do these calls or these check-ins, we interrupt them. And in a way, whether we mean it or not, we might be perpetrating the idea that we don't trust them. If you got to check up on somebody, you don't trust them, right?
Yeah.
Now, my team, my leaders will say, oh, no, I do trust them. I just want to see. So that's all about you as a leader. It's not about them. And I think we make a lot of mistakes because we do things for us, and true leaders or servant leaders. So if your people are doing a good job, then let them do it. Or if you want to make sure that you're all on task, don't call it a check-in, have a scheduled, and here's the new word for it, results report.
Love that. That's
I'm just gonna let's do a little results report, and not how are you feeling and how are you dealing with working isolated. No, let's do a little results report. What's the best thing that happened to you today? What did you accomplish that you're proud of? How did you further the goals that we have set in place? Bang, bang, bang.
Done and done.
Yeah.
And those kind of leaders, obviously the ones that you're coaching, the ones that are seeing how to manage this particular process, what do you see as a kind of their core trait as you look into sort of 2022 and beyond? What should leaders be really evoking in terms of how they come across?
Wow, what a great question. One of the exercises I do with leadership teams that I work with on site is I'll ask them all to sit down and write a list of, think of their best leader and write a list of all the traits. And what's interesting is how different people's perceptions of what a leader should be. And the people who are leading have a different perspective. You know, they'll say visionary and delegator. And the people who aren't leaders will say, oh, they have to be communicative and, trustworthy. So I looked it up online and I said, what are the traits of a top leader? And I got something from Forbes, something from Entrepreneur Magazine, and none of those matched. So there was only, this is a loaded question, Mal. You're asking a loaded question.
Sorry, I just ask you to pick one is really unkind. But
we all have a view. We'll say, this is the trait, right? However, what was interesting in the ones that I researched, there was one word that came in all of them. You know, the 15 traits, the 10 traits, the 8 traits, whatever. And it was empathy. And I thought that was really interesting, that those that displayed empathy or had empathy for other people it made almost every list. Now, did it make the list from the ones that I work with? Not necessarily. And I think it's probably because we're focused on the goals. And so we're thinking what traits will get us our goals. When in reality, if you think about empathy, it really is being able to relate to people that are on your team. So I would agree with empathy. And I would also say that for me, the thing that I work with my leaders the most is really their mindset. Everything happens in your mind. And when they are not using their mind, they're just moving forward on goals or moving forward, or we got to get things done. Instead of, what's your intent with this person? What's your intent in general? And that's an interesting concept very few people talk about.
Yeah, I think that's really strong because, when looking at any team, as you say, team of individuals, you've got to try and get inside them. And it's so much more difficult from distance, isn't it? So perhaps that empathy needs to be so much stronger in the current working world.
And along with that, careful as a leader not to talk about feelings. Let's go back to the results report, because I always liken it to, if you've ever hurt yourself, like let's say you slam your finger in the door and you immediately put your hand down, you're like, okay, I can deal with it, until somebody says, oh my gosh, that must hurt, and next thing you know, you're crying. Yes, it does hurt, because all the focus is on the pain. So even though we're showing empathy for situations, be very careful with discussing feelings. Because the way I always kind of share it with my clients is feelings are tenuous. I mean, feelings, one moment you feel on top of the world, you get a great telephone call, or you just did a great sale. And then the next moment you hear something negative and you're in the dumps. So feelings are like, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Where results or intent or goals or what is your focus for today, not what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Because a feeling, and you can help direct somebody's feeling right into the dumpster.
For sure. Absolutely. And as you say, bringing that focus onto it is only going to evoke more of those kind of emotions, right? Rather than actually, let's get the job done. And then what you will sense how they are feeling from the conversation, but it doesn't have to be an entire focus of it. Brilliant stuff. When you think about the sort of, one of the challenges that leaders have right now is very much around recruitment. Okay, so, particularly say in the US and the UK, it is difficult to find people of sufficient skill to help to build businesses, and we're all about business growth here. What do you think leaders should be doing in order to maximize their chances of finding the right team to work with?
Great question. I work in a couple of industries that are people steal people. Tell me any industry where people aren't stealing people. And here's so before we actually focus on getting new people, I actually think that your focus should be on your current people. And if somebody can steal your people, then you got to really look at yourself in the mirror. And anyone can be stolen away if they're romanced. So I work with my leaders a lot on, are you romancing your own team? A person who's happy and recognized and loved isn't looking somewhere else. But the minute that they feel like they're overworked, there's no there's no end in sight, because everyone's inundated with work right now. And that's why people are feeling pressured. Then suddenly somebody comes along and gives them a compliment, tells them that they'll be more appreciated. Well, they're lured away, they're romanced away.
Yes.
So my first step is, let's talk about the people you got. And then listening to leaders, and they don't like someone they have. What? You're looking for that next person, but you can't fix what's right under your nose. Wow. So how are you viewing your team? How are you romancing your team? How are you looking for the good in each person in that team? Yeah. Because if they're complaining, then you allowed that somewhere.
Yes, and that spreads. And then
oh my gosh. Yeah, you allow bad behavior, you're going to have more and more bad behavior.
So true. And actually, just you talk about that word, romancing is such a great word for how to consider how you're dealing with your team. I love it, and thank you. And I think as well, we do a lot around the sales side, and it's almost that with clients as well, isn't it? You're so keen often to go out after the next client that you forget to romance your own current customers too. So that's a really evocative phrase, and thank you. Really appreciate it.
Well, and the same thing with clients. You check in with them. I'm just checking in with you because you haven't bought from me, you haven't done something for me, but instead you say, I thought you might really like this, or I was thinking about you, client, and here's something I don't even know if you know how great you are about.
Yeah.
What? What?
People love that.
You said something nice to me for no reason. You don't want anything. No, I just like you.
Yeah.
And those clients,
in the world. Everywhere. Wonderful, Shawna. Thank you. I wonder if I can just fire a few quick questions, as we tend to do with all of our interviewees. Thank you. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Boy, I've gotten a lot of advice.
Given a lot and got a lot, I'm sure.
Probably the best piece is that to actually be in this time as a leader and as a person who is a goal. I do a goals program for my clients every month. We're thinking of the future. We're analyzing the past, and we miss this. So living right now, enjoying this conversation you and I are having, is life. And I'm spending my life. You just got a piece of my life.
Thank you.
And I want this piece to be brilliant.
Yeah, that it is. Thank you very much. So as well, do you have anybody you particularly sort of look up to? Anybody you admire?
I do, many. I have been a student of Jim Rohn, the business philosopher, for many years. Yeah. And one of the things he says, if you want to make a living, get good at your job. If you want to make a fortune, get good at yourself. And this is the point of coaching. This is the point of you and I having this conversation, to learn from each other. This is the point. I want to make a fortune.
Yeah,
I'm on my way.
Yeah. Magnificent. What if you were to meet you just starting out, Shawna just starting out, what would you advise her that you know now?
First of all, don't take anything personally. That's one of the 4 agreements, and I would really take that to heart. Yeah. And the other thing is, it seemed as if everything was such a big deal, and most things are not big deals. Most things are incremental. So watch your habits. As I have a couple of habits I'm not in love with, and the only way to fix a bad habit is not to get rid of it. It's almost impossible. It's to replace it with a better habit. And I think it would have valued me to know that earlier. Yeah,
that's such good advice. I hope there are people out there making notes right now about this is the way we need to do it. Listen, Shawna Schuh, you've been so great guest. Thanks very much indeed for your time. There will be people out there wanting to know how they can reach you. Where should they go?
My website. And the challenge with that, of course, is my last name is spelled Shawna. And then Shawna. I mean, I've got a name that has various spellings. So it's Shawna Schuh. And I have a quiz, and I have a free ebook, and I have lots of articles. And if they want to sign up, I do a Monday mindset and a Q day on Tuesdays where I ask a question, business question. It's all free. My goal is to help the world.
Wow, listen, a really great ambition. And thank you for helping this little part of the world today. Shawna, thanks again.
Thank you. You are great. Thank you for having me on.
A genuine pleasure. Thank you. That's all we've got time for, I'm afraid, this week on the Growth Execution Podcast. Thank you for listening in. We'll be back next week with another great leader helping you to launch, build, and grow your business. Until then, have a great growth week, and I'll see you in 7 days. All the best. Take care. Bye.